Welcome to another episode of Not Your Average Lives. And this episode is not an interview, although it might be an interview with myself. So it's not an interview with another person. I usually do my Monday interviews with other people. But since this is the last Monday of 2021, I decided that I would just interview myself, not in an interview format, of course, because that would be kind of weird. But I wanted to talk about my year. I wanted to do a year in review episode because that's kind of what I do. That's something that it's a practice I started a couple years ago. And it's something that I now teach because it's helped me so much in my life where I not only plan forward, but I look back because when we look back, we learn so much and we're so quick to jump to the next thing. I think, at least me, that was kind of always, I never thought I was accomplishing much and I was always jumping ahead. I was very future focused and not celebrating what I'd accomplished, and not only celebrating what I've accomplished, but celebrating what I've learned. And we learn so much and we often beat ourselves up because we think, oh, we were slower, or I shouldn't have done that. I should have done this. And we're not like celebrating the fact that we did it, period, and that we learned from it. So I like to say there's no failures, there's just lessons. So I thought, I was thinking about as I was preparing for this episode and looking back, and I work in 90-day blocks. So there's two key things that I do differently than I did prior to like age 60, because this is like, I didn't start like figuring this stuff out and how to make it work for me until really close to my 60th birthday. So, but what a couple of the things that I do differently than I used to is that I plan ahead. And the funny thing is I used to plan ahead, but it was never the right things. It was always the wrong thing. So I really didn't know even how to plan, really. So I planned ahead, or I plan ahead and I set goals I do and work in 90-day cycles. So by setting goals, I actually am working to specific, I'm taking specific action because I want to get to my goals. So I figure out, okay, what steps do I need to take? Or at least what's the best next step? Because that's really all you need is the next step, because usually that'll lead you and you get clarity along the way, which is so important. Some people think they need it all mapped out. And what I found is you can have it all mapped out, but likely things will change along the way. So don't get too caught up in the how and all of the pieces and knowing in advance, because it'll come to you as you go. But just know that you need to have a goal. You need to have that vision of where you want to go and make sure it's a goal that excites you. And that's one mistake, is that I would pick goals that weren't all that exciting, but they were things I thought I should do. I was like, I needed to get that promotion, or I need to climb the corporate ladder to do this. And then ultimately, when I got there, I wasn't very happy because it wasn't really something that lit me up. So I was doing, that's why I say I was planning, but I was planning the wrong thing. So, but I plan ahead. And then the second thing that I do is I review. Like I said, I review and I capture what I've accomplished and what I've learned. So those two things. And so I thought what I'll do is talk about what I learned. So the year in the like year in review is kind of my accomplishments, but also what I learned through the doing, and not everything is an accomplishment. The completion of something is accomplishment, or the doing it. And then maybe you don't accomplish, maybe you don't, you have a goal and and your goal changes along the way. And so not accomplishing it is actually a good thing. So I identified 5 lessons, 5 things that I learned, and I have examples for them. So I thought that would be helpful to share as well. And so the first lesson that I learned is that gaining knowledge really boosts confidence. That I feel so much more confident today than I did a year ago, just from taking that inspired action over the last 365 days. And so that makes me feel more capable than I would have I not gained the new knowledge. And I started to adopt, before I started changing my life and being more aligned in the things that I discovered I love. I used to think that the older I got, the less my brain was working really well, that I was forgetting things. I wasn't able, I used to have like that memory game. I was really good at playing that memory game when I was a kid. I used to think I can't do that anymore. And it's, a lot of it is belief in ourselves, because I began to believe I couldn't. So, and it's funny how that comes true when you have that mindset. But also, I wasn't using the creative part of my brain because I wasn't aligned where I really was lit up. And when you're lit up, then your creative juices flow more. And when your creative juices flow more, that gives you, your brain just works differently. I think your brain cells just come alive more. So gaining the knowledge, and sometimes you think, oh my gosh, that's hard stuff. Like I remember when I was just in Utah with training with my mentor, and it was scary because I thought, I'm not, what if I'm not good at what he teaches? What if I fail? And I came away from that feeling so much more confident than if I had tried, and feeling so much more capable. And that gaining knowledge, as what I learned, is how good it is for us, for our soul and for our confidence. So, and then in terms of, I have examples of where I gained knowledge. So I would love for you to play along with this and take notes in terms of like what these 5 things I learned are. And like for each of the categories, what, like in this instance, what did you learn? What did you learn? And what new knowledge did you gain? And did it help you build more confidence? Did it help you feel more capable? And if you didn't learn anything new, maybe that's one of the reasons why if you're not feeling confident, maybe you should look into, well, what can I do in the new year that would bring me more knowledge? Because if you want more confidence, that would be a good thing to do. So one thing was I learned how to drive an electric car. That was something I didn't know I would do. And it was quite a challenge, but it's like second nature now. So much fun. I also learned how to do breath work. I've done some breath work sessions it's been really cool. I learned how to kind of connect with my intuition through breath work. That's a tool that worked really well for me for doing that. I also learned about human design, which I'll talk about in another category as well. But that was a really cool new tool that I learned. I learned how to groom my dog thanks to the pandemic, because I didn't want to take him. Well, first of all, it wasn't just pandemic. Let me say the pandemic kind of got me. Somebody else I know started to groom their dog because of the pandemic, and it gave me the idea. So I was like, oh my gosh, I could learn to do that too. He learned on YouTube videos. And he did it because of the pandemic. So I was doing it because I didn't like the way they groomed my dog. He came home not looking as cute as when I do him. So I thought, if I want it done the way I like it, I'm just gonna have to learn how to do it myself. So I learned how to groom my dog. So that was fun. I learned how to be an affiliate. And if you don't know what an affiliate is when you and in my case, I have had a couple of mentors that I've been trained by them. And I think what they do is so fabulous. It's like, well, when you open doors for enrollment to your program again, I want to support you. So how can I support you? I'll promote you. I'll talk about your program. I'll get on live streams with you. And I'd never been an affiliate before. I didn't know how that worked. And so that was a fun side of online business that I had never really experienced. And so that was, I did that 2 times with 2 different people. I also learned how to repair my they weren't torn, my tendonitis, my triceps tendonitis. So I got new exercises I'd never done before. I learned how to do some things to keep my arm. So recently it kind of flared up a little bit, and I just like back at the exercises, keep it at bay. So I know now what to do. So that was really cool, because I think when we get older too, we think, that's just, I can't fix that. I'm too old. My body parts are failing. And no, it's like, you don't even know what's causing the ailment. It could be that I was doing an exercise wrong because I had started working out again. It could have been just something that I was doing, and it didn't matter how old I was. But we tend to quickly go to age as the cause of sometimes our whether it's our brain not working right or whether it's body not working right. So I also learned, in terms of knowledge, lots of new software programs. And a lot of people get scared of software or technology. And granted, I did kind of grow up in the technology because I worked for software development companies, but programs are so easy nowadays. They're so much less complicated than when we were younger. And so, it's just gaining it, again, a lot of it's confidence, and having the confidence to know, like, and just Google it if you have a question. A lot of places have really great customer support now too, and they have online chats where you can chat people. But I learned how to 2 different texting programs. I learned new video editing apps, which are really fun, and I could spend all day every day doing that. But that is not what I'm supposed to do, because it does take me longer than most people. Like finding music, I could spend forever trying to find the right music for something. Photo apps. So one of my photographer did my business photos. She has all these great apps, and we do once a month, she does a workshop where we get on Zoom with her, and she always has these great app ideas. So I learned those. I also learned Instagram Reels. Oh my gosh. I avoided these so long because I thought it's so hard, I'm not going to do it. And what I ended up doing is I finally was just bit the bullet, and I said, I know if I do it every single day, I'll learn it, just like any skill, right? And so it took me much longer when I first started doing it than it does now, because I've been doing it now. I've been doing it probably for about a month now, and they're much easier. And then also I went on YouTube and just watched people, and I would say, like, how do you do text in a reel? How do you do this in a reel? And I learned how to do it. So if you're not on Instagram, this is probably like really boring to you, or you're just like in one ear and out the other. But if you're on Instagram, reels are really fun to do. And I also learned the other thing is new features, because that's Reels is really a new feature in an existing app I was using. So I was already using Instagram. It's just they came out with this new feature, and everybody's doing them. So, got to be with the cool kids. So, and then I also StreamYard's another app I use that I really like. So I'm going to shift my microphone down. So, yeah, StreamYard does these filters now. So I can do these filters when I'm on my Facebook page. So they're really fun. I can like be a Disney princess if I want. One day we'll never know what anybody looks like because we'll be so filtered. It'll be like, and then we see each other in real life, and we'll be like, wow, she looks a lot different. I also learned yoga nidra. I had never done a yoga nidra. It's kind of like a meditative yoga what class, if you will. But yeah, yoga nidra is a type of yoga, and I did a class, or more than one, when I was on my retreat. So that was really fun. That was something else. I know there's a lot more, but these are just a handful of things that really was new stuff. And I don't hesitate to learn new stuff, and I'm really excited about what's going to be, coming in the new year and what things that I'll be learning. And I'll probably be complaining about learning, but eventually I'll do it and I'll be happy about it. So sometimes we fight them like with the reels thing, but then once we do them, then we're happy we did them. And of course, we have more confidence. So, all right. So number 2 is that taking intentional action, even if it's small, but regular intentional action produces desired results. So back to what I was saying about goals, that's why goals are so important, because they will force you to take intentional action. It's like, if I want this goal, I need to be intentional about what I do. And so one example is this podcast. So I decided, it's almost been 2 years, February will be 2 years when I've been doing this podcast. And I decided I was going to do a weekly episode. And then somewhere along the way, and I want to do an interview format. So that requires finding people who would make good guests and reaching out to them and coordinating, getting an interview and then doing the interview. And then, of course, doing the things on the back end of the interview, like editing and publishing and all that kind of stuff. So I made a commitment to do that. And I have been consistent doing it. And so that to me is, there just seems like little, but then when you add it all up, and like I think over 32,000 downloads now, which is really incredible that 32,000 times people have wanted to listen to my podcast. And then what I decided to do a little bit along the way is do a second episode. So since last March, I have done 2 episodes a week, and it's consistent over time that produces desired results. And desired results is that I am connecting with my listeners on a regular basis. And that was important to me to make that commitment and to stick to that commitment. So that's an example of intentional action that I took, or have taken. What else? Well, just having a plan and being consistent every 90 days, setting goals for every 90 days that I want. You can set one big, this is what my business coach recommends in terms of, if you're have a business, set an annual goal that you want, and then figure out, divide it in 90-day buckets. What do you need to do every 90 days to get to that one annual goal? But then in the 90 days, okay, what do you want to accomplish in the 90 days? So 90 days is just a smaller subset, right? And it's easier to break it down, annual goal. What do I need to do to get, example would be in a business related. I remember Chalene Johnson talking about this when I first started in my online business. She was somebody I followed, and she wanted to be a New York Times bestseller. She wanted to write a best-selling book. So she decided, in order to get to a best-selling book, is she needed to have a big email list, because if you have a big email list, you publish a book, who would probably want to buy your book is the people who are on your email list. So her goal, even though it was a big goal, is to like have a New York Times bestseller. Well, what are the things that'll really make that happen? And so she was like, grow her email list. And so, okay, if growing your email list to 100,000 people is the tactical goal, the New York Times bestseller might be on our vision board. The tactical goal is to have 100,000 email subscribers. And then, okay, what are the actual specific things you need to do to grow your list to 100,000 followers? So you break that down into quarters. It's 25,000 followers every quarter. And what things do you need to do to get people to want to sign up on your email list? So that's kind of a good way to look at how you can break down a big goal. And I always say, don't have too many goals, because you need to have focus. And so focus on the most one important thing. And a lot of times your other goals will be met if that one thing is accomplished. So yeah, so that was having and growing my podcast was something that I really wanted to do. It was a vision that I had, and and I took intentional action to get there. Also, morning routine. I wanted to be consistent. I wanted to get my brain space into a place where I was doing, I was manifesting the things that I desired. And so affirmations, gratitude, the things that support that kind of manifestation mindset. And so I have been very consistent with my morning routine, which doesn't take a lot of time. And I've been, you know, that's intentional. I started a book. Um, yeah, so I'm very excited about that. Had some other things that have been more important, so it's a little lower on the priority list, but I have 5 chapters of my book done. So I'm super excited, and I will get that finished in the coming year. I scheduled trips. So I really desired to, I love to travel. And so in order to travel, and the pandemic shut that down. And so, but one of the things that in the new year, as things became more open up with the vaccine coming out, uh, I really wanted to just get back on an airplane and go somewhere. And so my husband and I took a trip in April. And then I, of course, did another trip to Greece, and then another trip to Utah. So it was very, for me, intentional, because I could have chosen to just not do it. But I took that intentional action because it was important to me, and it made it, because I love to travel and I'm an adventurer by heart. Um, it made a big difference by doing that. And then I signed up for training. There were things that I wanted in terms of expanding my coaching capabilities, expanding my knowledge base. And so I did courses. I took online courses, and as well, I was trained by 2 of my mentors. And well, actually, I was trained by my regular business coach too. He does training that's part of the mentorship program that I'm in with him, but the other 2 were kind of one-off trainings. So and one is I'm getting certified in something, and the other one was something, just a methodology in reading people's personalities that I'm learning. So yeah, so that those trainings, super intentional, because they supported goals that I have, and that is being a better coach and serving my clients as best I can. So, all right. So those are 2: gaining knowledge and being intentional in your actions. All right. So the other thing that I learned is, and I guess back to intentional actions, part of what I learned is, the small things add up to results, but taking intentional action is really effective. It has been for me very effective. So it's kind of like I knew that that was the case theoretically, but when you actually put it into practice, it's like, holy crap, that worked. Even if sometimes when you're in the doing and it's taking time, it's like, oh, is this ever going to like work? Am I ever going to get the results? And then one day you wake up and you have them. So, all right. So the other thing is that the third thing that I learned is the future is never what you predict. Like, you always think, so like going back a year and looking ahead to now, I never thought that I would have learned the things I've learned and accomplished what I've accomplished. And so, and what I've found is we always, it's they say shoot for the moon and you'll hit the stars or reach the stars. We never think it can be as glorious and magical as it turns out to be. And even when we face obstacles, usually, it's like the people, and I've interviewed people like this who have had really serious illnesses. I remember one in particular, she had a very serious cancer, dealing with cancer, and it completely changed her life for the better. and she said she would never trade it for the world. But it was a very difficult journey. And so, I say, even when we faced obstacles, because obstacles are inevitable, but it you usually will have the more magical outcome than you had thought, before whatever you went through. And a lot of times it requires really being open to change and getting outside of your comfort zone, because when you stay inside your comfort zone, there's usually no change for that, and there's usually not a lot of impact with that. So the things that became they're now that were my future, that I didn't predict, that are now my past, having the year be over now, or almost over. So I never predicted that some of the things on my vision board would have come true. Even though they were on my vision board at the beginning of January, I never, also remember, we're in a pandemic, so maybe I could go to Florida in April, but that I never envisioned going to another country in the year of 2021. So I never predicted that I would go on a yoga retreat. There was no thing on like any of my radar that had that. I wasn't even doing yoga. So as a practice on a regular basis. So the fact that I went on a yoga retreat, went to Greece for the yoga retreat, and a retreat and Greece were on my vision board. So isn't that funny how, like, you can put something on your vision board, and like I said, you don't even know the how. I put something on my vision board, and I just knew I wanted to do these things, but I never thought it would happen in 2021. At the beginning of 21, as I'm planning out my 2021. So it did. I never imagined spending a week in a beautiful mountain chalet in Sundance Resort. And while I'm being trained by somebody that I first heard about on a podcast episode, who I was mesmerized by what he does. I never in a million years thought I would be with him in person, one-on-one training, and being in a beautiful place like Sundance Resort. It's like mind boggling to me. So like, yeah, better than I had ever imagined. So magic, but I had to be willing to go outside my comfort zone, because that was uncomfortable. Going to a place I'd never been, meeting somebody in person that I just kind of like idolized from afar. And then knowing that I was going to be, tested, and didn't know how I'd do. So I was also a finalist in a contest that I had entered. It was probably I think it was the third time I had entered the contest. It's an annual contest that my business coach runs for his middle mastermind people. And so you can enter in this contest, you do a video, and if you're one of the finalists, you get to go in front of, he usually has an in-person event, but because of the pandemic, it was virtual. But there was over 1,000 people that were signed up to his event. And so the finalists do a video, and then the winner wins $20,000. So that's how big of a contest it is. So pretty impressive group of people that you're kind of competing against, because it's about breakthrough, and you have to do a video and get voted by the audience. So it was a really great experience. And I didn't win, but being a finalist to me was practically winning. And it was on my vision board, and I never thought that, I envisioned it in my mind that many times. I actually envisioned that I'd do a cartwheel when I went on stage to give my speech. So I wasn't able to do that on the virtual stage, but I am planning one day to be on the real stage, and I'll do my cartwheel then. So anyways, I never expected that I would trademark my Not Your Average Grandma. I've been calling myself Not Your Average Grandma online since 2014. So I finally took the intentional action to trademark my name. or my moniker. Never expected to do the yoga moves. I'm older than I was when I first did some of the yoga moves, that the crow pose. That was when I was 55 and was in the best shape of my life. And I'm not in the best shape of my life right now, but I mastered the crow pose in Greece. So very exciting. Didn't expect that. And I never, ever expected, last January, I never, ever expected I would own an electric car. It was not in my radar. I actually wanted a Mercedes SUV. That was on my vision board. But that's what I say, as things can change. You don't even know where you're going. I ended up getting a car, and it's so much better than I had imagined, because I love it so much. Love it, love it, love it so much. Doesn't even compare to what I would have had with the Mercedes. I used to own a Mercedes SUV, so that's why I wanted it, and it was on my vision board. But no, my Tesla M3 is so much better. Doesn't fit as much stuff, but that's okay. It's just my husband and I. We rarely have our kids or grandkids in the car anymore. In fact, so funny, my last car was an SUV. I had an Enclave before, and we got the 3 seats. I had the 3 seats, so I could fit everybody in the 3 seats. I can count on one hand, maybe twice, in 9 years that I had a SUV that I ever used that last row seats. So we gave the SUV, or I'm sorry, I don't have the SUV anymore because my husband has an SUV. So I gave away my SUV. I sacrificed to the no more 3 seats. I don't need the 3 seats because my husband has the 3rd seat. We don't need 2 SUVs that both have 3 seats. So if we get into a situation, my husband can drive. And my grandkids do love to ride the Tesla. So those are the things that I didn't predict last January that happened. So the other thing, in terms of things I've learned this year, number 4 is, I have these numbered. Who you are and what you love is knowing who you are and what you love to do are the absolute keys to living your best life to its fullest, to its most fulfilled. So if you're still trying to live up to someone else's expectations of who you should be, then you run the risk of not living your best life. You might live their version of your best life, but their version of your best life will likely not make you your most fulfilled. So you have to know who you are, who is your authentic self, and what does that authentic self love to do? What does that authentic self, what lights that person up? And if you're not really sure, and if this is causing pause and you to think, good, and make that your number 1 priority for 2022 to figure out. So there's tools. So one of the tools that I'm learning is by Alex Paulos, and he, of course, will tell you whether you're living, if you're self-actualized, which is living authentically, or in self-denial, which is misaligned with who you're really meant to be. So there's tools for you to figure this out. His website, if you're curious, is innershift.com. So you can go check him out. Human Design is a tool. myhumandesign.com is a site where you can go and you can enter your information to find out what kind of human design and explore more on that. But that's something that I learned about just recently within the last couple of months. And it's so cool. And it's nothing like most tests are contextual. So in other words, you're taking the test. So if you're in self-denial, you're probably going to test out incorrectly. So you're going to get results based on who you think you are, not who you really are. And so things like human design and what my mentor Alex Paulos teaches are really great tools for finding out how to get in alignment with who you really are and what you really love. So so yeah, and so for me, the things that I learned about were key in living to my fullest potential in my authentic self and being super aligned. And so that being a super aligned and who I am authentically is being a better coach. And I love coaching. I love learning about coaching. So just doing more of that, getting certified in different tools, making sure that I had a vision board that was aligned with who I am and had things on it that excited me, made me feel lit up. Is the best way to describe it. And then ultimately, as those things come into my life as reality, feeling really joyful deep inside, not needing external gratification. And so also being able to travel again and going on adventures. So I realize that is fully aligned with who I am. And also spending more time with my family, having, being a coach in what I do every day allows me to be flexible with my time, allows me to not be like in the job that I used to be, where I had to check in essentially every day with a boss. I'm my boss. So, if I want time off, I have to ask myself. But like my sixth grandchild was born last February, and I didn't have to ask anybody. I would just got to be there. So yeah, being with family, I spent more time with my family this year than I ever would have been able to do. And it's been just amazing to be able to spend time, that quality time that, if I was in a 9 to 5 job that I used to be in, that I was miserable in, I would have had made less memories with my family. So yeah, definitely I learned more. I learned that it's so important to know who you are and what you love to do. And I learned more about who I am and what it is I love to do. And I get to help people do that, which is very exciting. All right. And then the last thing on the list, number 5, is that the best is yet to come. Going through the last year, I've said this for when I got into my 50s, because when I turned 50, I married my college sweetheart. And so I felt like my 50s were going to be my best decade, which at the time they were. One thing that was important to me was when I turned 60, I wanted to continue with that mindset. I wanted to know that the best is yet to come. It's always going to get better. So the 60s is going to be my best decade. And I continue to take that approach with every year that comes. And so when I look back at where I was a year ago and what I thought would happen over the course of the year, and the fact that it was better and how I feel today, I'm sure, and I believe with all my mind and heart and soul, that the best is yet to come in 2022. And that's where I choose to direct every ounce of my thought process. And I feel it's super exciting for me to know that the year is going to be filled with surprises, that the year will unfold in unexpected ways that right now I wouldn't even be able to fathom, but they're going to unfold. And I'm going to be sitting here a year from now sharing lessons learned and things that I never predicted. And so I hope that this has helped you think about what in your 2021 has unfolded, expectedly or unexpectedly? What have you learned? How are you better? How are you different? Look at it in a way that is reflective and actually advises you going forward. Because that's what looking back to me is all about, is what did I learn and how did I process it to help me going forward, to live my best life, to be my best self, to be a better human, to be a better contributor while I'm here on earth. So, and on that note, I'll wrap up because I think this has been probably a long episode. So if you're still with me, thank you for hanging in there. I got my good vibes. If you're not on, I love this. We were at an outlet mall with in Asheville, North Carolina, and I saw this. You know, when you see something on the rack and you're just like, I have to have that. It's a good vibes sweatshirt. And so that's what I'm wearing. Good vibes going into 2022. And I'm really excited because I've got some fun stuff happening in January. I've got some couple of free trainings. I'm going to do a vision board workshop. We're going to do an Ignite Your Second Half Soul training. If you've been in that before, it's going to be a revised version. It's going to be live, 3 parts. It's going to be a lot of fun. So I'm really looking forward to that. And then the Second Half Spark School opens the last day of January. So I'm very excited about that, to get some new students in and to help them have the best 2022 of the best year of their life, and definitely an amazing 2022. So thanks so much and happy new year, because this is the last Monday episode of 2021. It's been a great year. Thank you so much for tuning into the Not Your Average Lives podcast. If you haven't yet, make sure to subscribe on iTunes if you have an Apple device. You can find free resources and learn what else I have going on at the moment that might interest you on my website at notyouraveragegrandma.com. You can also find me on Instagram or Facebook at Not Your Average Grandma. If you liked this episode, it would make my heart so happy if you could leave me a 5-star rating. You can also add a review to let me know what you like about this podcast, which will help spread the word about it to others who need a little midlife inspiration. As always, be you, listen to your inner voice, and focus on reigniting that lost spark so you can start living your own Not Your Average life.